Most fans assumed Jaylen Brown and Joel Embiid were building chemistry behind the scenes. But Tracy McGrady says something very different was happening.
And I don't think there's been a conversation between the two, at least not to my knowledge.
Now he's explaining why these two stars can't seem to stand each other, and the reason has caught a lot of NBA fans off guard. Let me break it down. The bombshell nobody saw coming. Let me set the scene for you nice and slow. It is the middle of July in the year 2026, and the basketball world thinks all the fireworks are already behind us. The trade is done, the papers are signed, everybody has gone home to enjoy the summer. And then Tracy McGrady sits down for a quiet episode of his podcast, the show he does with his old running mate Vince Carter. And with one calm little sentence, he flips the whole story on its head. He was not shouting, he was not throwing dirt. He was just talking the way two old friends talk when the cameras feel far away. But what he said landed like a brick through a window. It was quiet, and then suddenly it was everywhere. Clips of that one moment shot across every phone in the country within hours, and by the next morning the whole basketball world was arguing about it. McGrady told the world that Jaylen Brown and Joel Embiid had not had a single personal conversation, even though they had been teammates on the Philadelphia 76ers for close to 2 whole weeks. Think about that for a second. Two grown men, both stars, both leaders, both supposed to be building something special together, and neither one of them had picked up a phone. Not a text, not a call, not even a quick little, "Welcome to the team, big fella." Nothing. And here's the part that makes it sting even more. McGrady said Brown had already reached out to the people around Embiid. He had gotten in touch with the young guards on the roster. He just had not gotten in touch with the man in the middle.
Talked to Maxey and he talked to VJ, but I don't think he hasn't spoken to Embiid yet.
So Brown talked to Tyrese Maxey. He talked to the young rookie guard VJ Edgecombe. He said all the right things to all the right people, but he skipped right over the biggest name on the whole team. He skipped over the franchise. He skipped over the man whose face is basically painted on the side of the building in Philadelphia. And T-Mac did not treat that like a small thing. He treated it like a warning light on the dashboard. He looked at that empty silence, thought about who these two men are and where they sit inside this team, and he told you straight up that it worried him.
That's not a good sign, because when you go into a new team and you go into a team that this is the MVP.
That right there is the whole point. This is not just any locker room. This is Joel Embiid's house. He has been the man in Philadelphia for years. He is the former most valuable player. He is the guy the offense runs through. And now here comes Jaylen Brown, another certified star, walking through the front door. And the two of them are acting like strangers passing on a train. Now, if you're just tuning in, you might be thinking, who cares? It is the offseason. Players are on vacation. Everybody relax. And that is a fair thought. We will get to that side of it. But first, you have to understand how we even got here, because the way this trade went down is exactly why McGrady's little comment turned into such a loud storm. Let me walk you back to the beginning of the month. On or around July, the Boston Celtics did something almost nobody in the entire league saw coming. They took Jaylen Brown, a 5-time All-Star, a former Finals most valuable player, a homegrown champion who had just helped raise a banner in Boston, and they shipped him straight down the road to a rival. And not just any rival, they sent him to the Philadelphia 76ers, one of the teams they battle with the hardest. That alone is wild. You do not usually hand your best young star to the enemy, but it gets stranger when you look at what came back. To land Brown, the 76ers sent Boston a package built around Paul George, who is 36 years old and heading into his 17th season. His contract is one of the heaviest and least wanted deals in the whole league, sitting at roughly $110.7 million over the next 2 seasons. On top of George, Boston got a bag of future draft picks with all kinds of conditions and protections stapled onto them. And that is basically it. A player deep into his 30s, a giant contract nobody wanted, and some picks that might turn into something years from now, for a prime, in his prime superstar. So it is no shock that most people around the league looked at this and called it a straight-up robbery in Philadelphia's favor. League executives and analysts largely saw it as a huge win for the 76ers. They basically got themselves a star in the middle of his best years, and all they had to give up was an aging contract and some paper. In a league where great players usually cost you a mountain of picks and young talent, that is the kind of deal that makes other front offices spit out their coffee. And let us not skip past how strange it is that Boston chose this exact door to send him through. You do not usually take a homegrown star, a young man the whole city watched grow up, a champion who helped hang a banner, and then hand him to a team you have been trading punches with for years. That would be like giving your loudest neighbor the keys to your best car the day after the two of you fought over the fence. It just does not happen, and yet Boston did it, and they did it in a hurry. And that speed is a huge part of why the basketball world could not put this story down. And it was not cheap for Brown to keep around either. His salary sits somewhere around $57 million for the coming season, part of a massive long-term extension. So Boston shed a ton of money and picked up flexibility, while Philadelphia picked up a monster. On paper, it looks like a slam dunk for the Sixers, but paper does not play basketball, people do. And that is where McGrady's comment starts to matter, because a trade only works if the humans inside it actually want to work together. Now here's the thing you need to understand about why Tracy McGrady's voice carries so much weight in this. He is not some loud guy on the internet guessing from the outside. This is a Hall of Fame level talent who has a real documented relationship with Jaylen Brown. Years back, when Brown was frustrated and trade whispers were swirling around him, McGrady is the one who told Brown to stay the course in Boston and be patient. Brown listened, worked out with him, and later thanked him for the guidance. So when T-Mac speaks on Brown's mind and Brown's relationships, he is not throwing darts blindfolded. He knows this young man. And plenty of smart voices in the game will tell you the exact same thing. When McGrady talks, you lean in and you listen.
And if Tracy McGrady says that about Jaylen Brown's comments, you damn well better listen, because he knows what he's talking about.
You hear that? That is the whole league basically saying the same thing. Do not brush McGrady off. He has the ear of the guy. He has the trust. So when he says the phone has not rung between Brown and Embiid, that is not gossip. That is somebody with a real window into the situation telling you something feels off. But that still leaves the biggest question of all just sitting there, staring at you. Why? Why would two professional athletes who need each other refuse to say a single word? Why would a fresh new teammate skip right past the biggest star on his team? What could have possibly happened between these two men that made this simple little phone call feel so heavy? Well, buckle up. Because to answer that, we have to go back to just a few weeks before this trade, when these two were not teammates at all. They were at war. The war that started it all. Rewind the clock to May 2026, the playoffs' first round, the Boston Celtics against the Philadelphia 76ers. And this was not some quiet, polite little series. This was a street fight in high tops. Every possession felt like a shove match. Every whistle felt like a fight over who was cheating who. And right in the middle of all that heat stood the two men we are talking about today, guarding each other, bumping each other, and getting under each other's skin all series long. This is the part everybody forgets when they see them in the same jersey. Now, just weeks before they became teammates, they were doing everything in their power to end each other's season. Now here's where it gets juicy, because Boston did not just lose this series. They collapsed in it, they had this thing in their hands, and then they let it slip away in the ugliest way possible.
But you snatched it away from yourself because you gave up a 3-1 lead.
Let that sit for a moment. Boston had a 3-1 lead. They were one win away from moving on, and they let Philadelphia climb all the way back and steal the whole series in 7 games. That is the kind of loss that leaves a scar. That is the kind of loss that makes a proud man say things he might regret later. And Jaylen Brown is a proud man. So when the final horn blew and his season was over, he did not go quietly into the summer. He got on the microphone, he got on his live stream, and he started swinging. He did not talk about his own mistakes. He talked about the officials. He talked about the big man on the other side. He talked about Joel Embiid. This part is important, so I'm going to slow all the way down. After that painful series, Brown looked right at the camera and picked Embiid's whole game apart. He called Embiid a big body and then said that Embiid was flopping around and getting rewarded for it with extra calls. In Brown's own words, he said Embiid was flopping around and got some extra calls that the league rewarded him for. Now think about how personal that is. Brown did not just say Embiid was a great player and tip his cap. He basically accused the man of faking, of playing act, of falling down on purpose to trick the referees. In the world of basketball, calling a superstar a flopper is one of the sharpest insults you can throw. It attacks his toughness, it attacks his honesty, it attacks the very thing that makes him a competitor. And Brown did not whisper it in some quiet corner where it would fade away by morning. He said it loud, on camera, for the whole world to hear and repeat. Once words like that are out in the open, you cannot stuff them back in the bag. Everybody heard it. Everybody saved the clip. And you can bet Joel Embiid heard it too. And Brown did not stop there. He said the Celtics didn't really have the answers for him, even after trying every defense they could think of. And then he dropped the line that flopping had ruined our game. He even went so far as to suggest that some of the referees themselves needed to be investigated. So now you can see the picture forming. This was not two guys shaking hands after a hard game. This was one star publicly questioning another star's honesty in front of the entire world. And the league did not exactly pat Brown on the back for it either.
All right, so the NBA fined Jaylen Brown $50,000 yesterday after the Celtics forward accused
$50,000 gone, just like that. That is how seriously the league took what Brown said. And it gets even sharper when you hear the exact reason behind the fine.
Officials of having, quote, an agenda against him during Boston's 7-game first-round loss to the 76ers.
An agenda against him, that is a heavy accusation. And a lot of people around the game felt like Brown was pointing the finger everywhere except the mirror. The way they saw it, he lost a series he should have won, and instead of owning that, he went looking for someone else to blame.
And instead of owning it, the first thing that came out of his mouth is that he was complaining about officiating, and he was complaining about flopping.
So there it is. In the eyes of a lot of folks, Brown's very first move after losing was to complain about Embiid and the whistles. And Embiid was not just sitting there taking it either. On the court, all series long, Embiid fired right back with his own trash talk, scoring through the contact and jawing at Brown every chance he got. There was clapping, there was swiping, there was face-to-face jawing, especially deep in that series when the stakes got the highest. Picture it. Brown clapping right in the big man's face after a stop. Embiid backing him down in the post and talking right back through the whole thing. Two alpha dogs, neither one willing to blink, neither one willing to give an inch of respect. That was the flavor of this whole series, all the way to the bitter end. These two were not friends. They were enemies pushing each other to the very edge of their patience. And this is exactly the history McGrady was pointing at when he raised his red flag. He was not just talking about a missed phone call in July. He was talking about all of that bad blood from May sitting right underneath it.
And, they had their thing in past years, personal, thing going on. Now they're teammates.
There's the phrase that says it all, a personal thing. Not a basketball thing, not a strategy thing, a personal thing. That is McGrady telling you gently that this beef ran deeper than X's and O's. And now, out of nowhere, these two men with a personal thing between them are supposed to share a bench, share a locker room, and chase a championship side by side. And T-Mac has hinted that Brown's frustration goes even deeper than one series. When he spoke about Brown earlier, he made it sound like there was a whole lot bubbling under the surface.
His frustration lies deeply within the organization and other things that,
of course,
we don't really have
that
details to.
Even the folks joking about it on the shows could feel the awkwardness of it. Picture the conversation these two would even have to have. It is almost funny how uncomfortable it would be.
Now, I may have said something about you flopping, cool. You still do.
That little joke actually lands close to the truth. How exactly do you walk up to a man, admit you called him a flopper on national TV just weeks ago, and then ask him to run the pick and roll with you and trust you with the ball in crunch time? That is not an easy hello. That is not a small hurdle. That is a real human uncomfortable mountain that both men have to climb before this thing can ever work. Trouble in paradise or just growing pains? Here's where the story splits into two roads, and you get to decide which one you believe. On one road, this is a disaster waiting to happen. On the other road, this is just two grown men taking their sweet time during a lazy summer, and everybody is panicking over nothing. Let me lay both roads out for you, fair and square, so you can walk away and pick your own side. First, let us hear from the man in the middle of it all, because Jaylen Brown did not exactly leave Boston skipping and smiling. When the trade became official, he put his feelings right out in the open, and they were messy.
I'm still processing how this all went down. I'm excited and disappointed at the same time.
Excited and disappointed at the same time. That is a man with a heart pulled in two directions. Part of him is ready for a fresh start, and part of him is still hurt about the way it all ended. And on his own live stream, he made it very clear that the hurt was real.
I wasn't thrilled with the amount of respect that was showed during this process.
So the man came into Philadelphia already carrying a bruise, and he even hinted that there was more to the whole thing than the public knows.
But I definitely think there's more to it. Chat, there's definitely more to it.
Now think about this from the top. He is disappointed. He feels disrespected. He feels like there is a hidden story he never got told. And on top of all of that, he now has to walk into a building where he just finished trash talking the franchise player. That is a lot of weight for one man to carry into a new job. And it does not even end there, because there is one more mental knot Brown has to untie.
Process, like I've been programmed to be like, man, the process.
For years, Brown was trained to hate this team. The rivalry, the playoff battles, all of it. And now he has to flip his own brain around and learn to love the very thing he was built to despise.
So it's like, it's funny now I gotta like reverse engineer.
Reverse engineer, that is his own word for it. He has to take apart everything he felt about Philadelphia and put it back together in a brand new shape. And that, my friends, takes time. So when you hear that he has not called Embiid yet, maybe it is not hate. Maybe it is a man who is still busy rewiring his own heart. That brings us to the darker road, the worry road, and it is a fair one. Because on the Philadelphia side, the master plan only works if these two click. The whole reason the 76ers wanted Brown was to take some of the heavy load off Embiid's shoulders so the big man could stay healthier and fresher pressure deep into the season. But that only happens if the two of them trust each other. If there is a wall of silence between your two best players, the pick and rolls get clunky, the defense gets confused, and the late game trust just is not there. And here's the cold part. Basketball is a game of split-second trust. In the final minute of a tight playoff game, you do not have time to think about whether you like the man next to you. You have to already know he is going to be exactly where he is supposed to be. You build that kind of trust with hours of talking, hanging around, and learning from each other long before the lights come on. You do not build it from silence. So yes, the concern is real, and the media ran with it. The whole thing got wrapped up in a big trouble in paradise narrative almost overnight. But now let me walk you down the brighter road, because it is just as real. First off, the 76ers front office says Embiid himself was actually thrilled about the trade. When the deal closed, the team president called him, and by every account, Embiid was described as fired up and excited to get another star to share the load. So if the big man was truly furious, that news never got out. And Brown himself is clearly not sitting on his hands. Remember, McGrady said Brown already reached out to the young guards. That is backed up by the reporting too.
He has already spoken to the team's cornerstone guards, Tyrese Maxey and BJ Edgecombe.
So the man is talking to his new teammates. He is engaged. He is doing the work. He just has not gotten to the biggest name on the list yet. And plenty of veterans will tell you that in the offseason, that is honestly not a crisis at all.
Especially when it's the offseason. I don't put too much into it as far as the communication goes.
That is the calm, cold truth of pro sports. Players are scattered all over the world in the summer. They are with their families. They are resting, and a whole lot of them do not truly link up until camp starts anyway. Some of the sharpest voices in the game will remind you that teammates are not there to be best friends in the first place.
Because your teammates, Uncle Joe, you don't have to like each other.
You do not have to like each other. You just have to win together.
No.
You're not there for a relationship. You're there to win a championship.
And that is the honest heart of it. History is full of rivals who could not stand each other one year and then lifted a trophy together the next. Winning has a funny way of melting old grudges. Both of these men have every reason in the world to make this work. Embiid finally wants his title and a body that can survive the playoffs. Brown wants to prove himself all over again after leaving a winner. When two men want the same thing that badly, the past tends to get real small, real fast. Now, do not get it twisted. This is not all sunshine. Some heavy hitters still think Boston is going to regret this whole thing for a long time. There are legends out there who looked at this trade and just shook their heads at the idea of breaking up a good thing for a bag of picks.
I think Boston gonna look back on this like Minnesota kicking themselves over the cat trade. Just one of the moments where you don't break a great thing up.
And on the pure basketball value side, more than a few people felt, Boston got shortchanged, plain and simple, when you stack this return up against what other stars have fetched.
The Lakers got more back Utah got more back, in my opinion, for Walker Kessler.
So both franchises have real questions to answer. Boston has to prove they did not give away a gem too cheap, and Philadelphia has to prove that talent alone can turn into trust. Which brings us all the way back to where we started, to that one quiet sentence from Tracy McGrady. Was he telling us these two men truly hate each other, or was he just flagging something small that will fix itself the second training camp opens? The honest answer, as of the 14th of July, is that nobody has confirmed the two have actually spoken yet. The silence is still real, and silence in a situation this delicate can be dangerous.
A lack of communication can lead to a real misunderstanding, fellas.
That line is the whole story in one breath. A little bit of quiet left alone too long can grow into a big misunderstanding, but a single honest phone call could wipe all of it away. So the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. It is likely not pure hatred, and it is likely not nothing. It is two proud men, fresh off a war, learning how to stand on the same side. And whether this becomes a championship story or a cautionary tale is going to come down to one thing that no trade paper can promise. It comes down to whether Jaylen Brown and Joel Embiid finally decide to talk. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.